Hey YouTube, welcome back to UniXTCG, and today we are back with the Archetype Revisits. The next one to get voted on the Patreon was Broly, and so yeah, I mean technically I guess it was Gohan, but I do want to do things that are going to be a little bit more meta relevant for North Carolina and the subsequent regionals, so we're choosing Broly. So I hope you guys enjoy. Like I said, you guys have been giving a lot of support, and I'm just feeding into it. You guys are feeding into me, I'm feeding into that, and that's literally what we got going on here. So a couple of things I want to say is if we can get this video over 100 likes, that would be amazing. As per usual, my actual current deck list for this deck and just basically like way deeper analysis going into these events is going to be on my Patreon. And then also when we have set 2 live, I'm going to be getting my master set on the digital client, and then the rest of these are going to be given out on the Patreon. I'm going to divvy them up, and I'm into equal piles, and I'll be choosing winners based on how many piles I have. So I still have some wild cards. Like I have like 2 SCR wild cards. I have like 24 wild cards for the SR rarity, so I'm pretty sure it will not take me the 120 of these to get into that, but even if it did, I have way more than 120. So if you want some extra things, getting on my Patreon not only will help support me, but and hopefully level up your game, but it's also going to allow you to get some free cards, hopefully on the digital client. So with that being said, let us hop into the video. So as we start this video, the thing we got here, right, is the Broly leader. Now the Broly leader is going to be a little special. Lots of green decks are going to have trouble this format because one of the best decks in the game is a deck that can be very, very, very aggressive, and as we all know, that is the way that you usually stop green, because once green gets to its critical mass, once green gets that 8 energy, they start playing cards that are just better than any other color's cards in the game. So beating them to the punch early is going to be how you normally take these out. Now with that being said, that means the rush deck, since that one it was, you know, red trying to play a very, very, very good aggressive tempo. It was yellow using the Ginyu package to amass like an early awakening, and when you awaken early as green, that's rough because every shot that gets lined up for 20k or more is just a card or 2 out of your hand, and you only have so many of those when you're at 4 energy, when you're at 5 energy, you know. So that's the thing. But Broly was the one leader in set 1 / the starter meta that went up to 25,000 when it flipped, at the cost of going down to 3 life when it flips. When you awaken with Broly, you add 1 card from your life to your energy, and then you flip over to be a 25, which is what we have here. So once you're at this 2500, you no longer draw when you attack. You can sack 1 of your energy to draw a card and go up to 30k power for the turn, which makes him a very, very strong swinger, but he also has a very, very strong body. And this is what I believe is the key to surviving in this meta as a green deck, because the 2 green decks that I put on top, and I know a lot of people are kind of annoyed with me because of androids not being higher on my tier list, but I put Cell and Broly there because Cell has the same 20k base as androids and Gohan, but if Cell gets to 8 energy and they don't Zeno you to get rid of your field, you're going to be able to keep spamming the Cell, which is going to clear your opponent's board while gaining you life, and that's just a comfortable cushion of just life. He also doesn't tap you out when you play him. You can still play a Gigantic Meteor, you can have Cells for Cell Juniors for combo power. There's a lot you can do with him, and with the Cell Arena, once you stop sacking energy, once you run out of Cells, stop playing Cells, whatever, and you start playing Brolys, he's just a draw per turn. You just, oh, okay, I'm just going to draw an extra card. And so Cell has the strongest late game out of any green deck in my opinion. His late game is toxic. If it wasn't for red, Cell would be a toxic deck in this format. Whereas Broly has the survivability that no green leader has. And that is why I have him sitting here just as the green deck that I would like to focus on first. So let's talk about some of the new things that they got. Broly got a leader specific card in the form of Broly BR, 7 cost, 40k, 10,000 power, and this guy says activate main once per turn if your leader is Broly. Choose 1 of your battle cards and 1 of your opponent's battle cards and add them to their energy in rest mode. Now this is a very, very good card, and this is also the 2nd card in the set that's I guess oddly enough, leader locked, that will remove things without destroying them, without KOing them. And the first one is the 3-drop Gohan, or 3-drop Goku for Gohan, that ramps. And then this one is the other one, which is basically a 7-drop for Broly. It does almost the same thing. Now, but it doesn't get rid of itself in the process. The thing though is, I love Gohan, but I think the Goku is kind of rough, whereas this one is not, because I know the Goku is optional and you don't have to ramp your opponent, but early kind of looks at the card made you feel like, oh, well, this is early game removal. Ramping somebody once you're already at 7 is inconsequential to ramping somebody when you guys are both at 2 or 3. That is just not it. That's not it at all. You can't really remove a card from that, because getting Goku closer, getting Topku closer to 5 energy is going to be the death of you, whereas giving them an energy once you're already established is just fine. We will just literally live through that. So this card is very nice, and it gets rid of your anti-KO effects. It gets rid of your, oh, when KO'd, bring this card back effects. So it's just really, really nice. And it's going to give you an extra energy for the following turn to go off even harder. Plus, it's a 10k combo card. So having this in your deck is just, it has no downsides. It's all gas. Next, you have Kami. Kami is very, very important to be getting rid of Roshi's, because against Red, they are going to hyper awaken. They are going to, if they see Roshi, they are using it. They are busting every self-awakener because they want to get awakened as soon as possible and overwhelm you, because the earliest you can interact with a Red player's board is generally going to be on 6 energy, when you can play androids if you play it and pop 2 things and swing on another. Then you have 7-drop Gohan SCR at 7, and both of those cards I personally feel are not good in this meta. I think that we now have a 6-cost double striker that actually has 10k combo power, and I like him a lot more because he's not a blank when you draw him and you can't use him yet, or you're not going to use him for the turn. And then you also have like this Broly as a 7-drop. I believe both of them are better because, yes, if the board gets big enough to where 7-drop Gohan is a make or break, you likely are on death's door at that point, and tapping 7 and then passing is not going to be the way you get out of it. So I prefer being able to kind of just protect yourself in general and then play board clearing as needed. So that's kind of a thing for me. But this Kami is going to stop your Roshi plays. They'll get 1 use out of Roshi if you just have this in hand and you respond to it with Kami. So yeah, this is a 4 of in any green deck, no matter what. Unfortunately, takes up space, but you have to. Another new one is Cell. Now I still think that Cell is going to be the deck that that just capitalizes the most off of this, because with Cell and Cell Games Arena on board, you always play this on 8, you go down to 5, you activate your leader effect, going back up to 6, you turn Cell Games to the side, you go up to 7, you can charge up to that. However, Broly kind of has its own little thing. You do have to use Cell when you're at a higher energy cost. Like, I would say it would be best to, you know, maybe Broly as your first 8-drop and go from and be at 8 energy, you know what I mean? But then when you are at 9 energy, you charge to 9, right? You play Cell. Cell takes you down to 6 energy, but you still have 1 open to use something like Gigantic Meteor. Then the setup is, if your 5Q survives on the field, you'll get 1 energy back, taking you up to 7. And that allows you to charge to 8 next turn and play another Broly out. So I do think that when you have 5Q on the board, ironically it's the card with Cell in it that's going to enable Cell, but if you have 5Q on the board, you're going to actually be able to loop like cells, and that is extremely important. Might not loop cells, but be back at the 8-cost threshold, because yeah, I think Cell is still pretty much the only deck that can sell back to back to back. I guess Android 17 can, but he needs setup as well. You need Dr. Joe's Lab a little bit more, but yeah, realistically, Broly, if you're at 9 energy when you drop a Cell, can play an 8-drop next turn as long as you have 5Q on board, and I think that's actually very, very, very good. But yeah, this guy is a monster, blowing up your opponent's 2 most threatening cards and then gaining a life to help you get back in the game is great. And because you're playing this in 8, before Broly kind of had a hard time getting life gain in, because you had to have a 16, which is unplayable in this format, or you had to just take, you know, a 6, a turn 6 turn and play it, and there are other things to do. But now you can actually play a boss card, blow up 2 things, and gain 1 life. So this card is just godsend. Then what we have here is a new Double Striker. This is what I was talking about earlier. The thing about this Double Striker is that you literally have the ability to have a Double Striker in your deck, and for 5k less power, and he's not destroying things, he has 10k combo power. And the amount of zeros in a green deck were the reason why green could be overrun sometimes, because you just simply don't have enough combo power. That is changing. It's not fast enough to completely nullify how strong red is right now, but I think that Broly's 25k base is a long way. Like, it goes a long way. And this Son Gohan childhood, basically, you have to have a Son Goku in your drop, and this card gains double strike. But between running like the 1-drop Searcher and the 4-drop promo, that's like kind of like an extra spare copy of a bootleg copy of Vegeta ramp, you have the Gokus to be able to combo randomly one time in the game, and then just have this guy set up for later. So very good. Easy destructive string, or easy gigantic meteor thing. So now what we have here is a new spice card, and I think this is one of the most important cards in the deck. This is Senzu Bean. Now we can ignore its life gain ability. That's really not going to happen unless you have no other plays or you're in an incredibly good spot, which is a thing. Like, let's say like you're holding down the fort. You've got Cell, Broly, and the only thing that can happen is if your opponent hits you really hard one time and then plays a double strike and shotguns, you can just tap 5 and play Senzu Bean. Go up to 4. Your opponent is going to not be able to get around that, and that's what is up. But mostly, this is going to be defense. You're going to actually just play this card, go up to 30k on your backside, and survive an entire turn that you would have normally had to lose half your hand to. And that's what this is. This card is so important, I think I'm going to centralize the deck around it, because surviving red should be your main goal. You're automatically going to have a great matchup versus blue. You're probably going to have a great matchup versus yellow, but this card also helps if they have a little more aggro to them. The green mirror is the green mirror. It's still just as toxic as it was in set 1. I'm not going to hold you. Cell is a monstrous card in that mirror, and Broly is dumb too. Before, if you got to your Broly turn and you weren't already like set up with cards on board, and your opponent was, you'd still probably lose because you have to play your Broly matchup, but also you're losing cards to the other card swings as well. It's not like that anymore. You can play Cell and just blow up your opponent's Broly and their 5Q and just keep it moving, and that's insane. So that's a pretty good thing. But yeah, Senzu Bean is just great, but it may help you in your red mirrors, and that extra 5k may give you an extra turn to breathe, charge, and then really come back. Then you have Earth Destroying Blow. This one I don't think is really that good for Broly. It's hard to have 2 open, and if you have 2 open, I definitely believe you want Senzu Bean to go wide over Earth Destroying Blow to go tall. Now that being said, I do think that we could be looking at a place where if we ever had a side deck, you would put this in your side deck and you'd side it in 1-for-1 with Senzu Bean. I think that would actually be a really, really good move. Like, you just literally go, okay, am I facing red? Senzu Bean's in the main. Am I facing green? We're putting Earth Destroying Blow in. Am I facing blue? We're putting Earth Destroying Blow in. So I think that's that. But I mean, you're going to go up 25k for 2, and then if you have 6 or more energy, you get to look at the top card of your deck and either add it to your hand or add it to rest mode. This is like a super combo on crack. You are literally drawing a card, and then, or you're putting it into your energy to ramp. It's just a great card. If you for any reason are at 6 and you just don't have a use for all your energy, or you have like a really defensive turn, like you get to 6, you could have Earth Destroying Blow in hand and just Senzu Bean yourself up, and the one time they might try to shotgun you, Earth Destroying Blow to get to 7, charge to 8. This is just a very, very good one. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about the sponsors of this video for a second, and then we'll get right back to the content. Alright, so it's time to get into it. I am indeed sponsored by Mystic TCG, the coolest place for your TCG hobbies in Missouri, and one of the coolest places in the country, one of the coolest places in the world, actually. They have their own events, they hold their own locals, of course. They sell so many popular TCGs, whether you want to play any of these Bandai games like One Piece, Dragon Ball, Digimon, whether you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh, whether you want to play Magic, they have it all. They have their own merch, and on top of that, a cool thing about that is that Eden, the owner of the company, he's a vendor, so he will buy singles, he will buy collections, he will buy prize cards. If you're ever seeing him at an event and you just want to flip some things that you just won, go to him. He's your dude. And on top of that, you can go into the description and use my code UniXTCG to get discounts off your purchases. Beyond that, if you are above the border and in Canada, you can go to G3. They're the other team that sponsors me. G3 is a wonderful, wonderful store in Canada that also holds zone events. Cool thing, they also hold Discord events. So even if you're not in Canada, you can play in those. They also sell cards on their site. They can just do a whole lot of things for you if you just need a TCG hub while in Canada. They also house one of the most competitive Dragon Ball Super Masters teams in the game, so that's a whole plus. Past that, the thing I wanted to say here is that you can also go in the description to use my code UNIX to get 5% off of your purchases or pre-orders. Now, moving past that, I just want to say that I do have so many things cooking in Universe X. We stream on Twitch. I know it's been a little bit, but that's because Set 2 dropping and preparing for national or preparing for regionals has just taken a huge front seat priority. And but yeah, we're streaming an entire Kingdom Hearts series playthrough. Of course, we have this channel we're going off. We have our UniX Dragon Ball channel, our UniX DB channel, where we will just be doing lots of Dragon Ball things that aren't this card game. And on my Patreon, you're going to find deeper takes, my own personal list and testing results, as well as giveaways whenever I can find additional products. So with that being said, we are going back to the card game content. So now we're going to be able to go over to some of the old cards that are gained or still retained. Broly BR. A lot of people are like, well, now that Cell's here, are you still playing Broly? Yes, absolutely. There needs to be a split. You cannot play Cell back to back to back unless you have a specific setup, and playing Cell without that specific setup will lock you out of your top end for 2 turns. Well, a turn. And then you have to get back. So you'll take 2 turns before you can play another A-drop. Broly does not have that problem. He is still that dude. You play him, you pause something, you draw, you swing twice for 45k. Dude is still a house. Just play him. Then we're gonna move on to Son Goku or Cell-Ku or 5Ku. This guy is still, again, that dude. You play him for 5, he ramps 1 in rest mode. Once you're awakened and you can't draw anymore, normally the drawback is that you're sacking your energy. As long as this guy's in here, you sack energy, the top card of your deck goes to your life. That can hurt sometimes when it's a boss card or something you need. Otherwise, it just flips over and then you are 30k and you drew a card. You'll speed through your deck pretty fast, but it's better than going down and messing up your curve. So this guy is still good. If you're playing against green and they play this card, you have to get rid of him. He is how decks play back-to-back cells if they play a cell on 9 energy. He is how Gohan can always be a 35k on attack and on defense. He is how Broly will not lose energy momentum using their effect and still keep drawing. You need to remove this. And to be honest, 25k is at a very interesting space because it's like 5 cost 25k is actually not the easiest to remove. Red can remove it, but outside of 2 cards, I believe in red, they don't ever, well, okay, 3 cards or so. There's like 3 to 4 cards that will remove this by themselves, but normally it's a 2-card combo. Whether it is 2 cards that minus, whether it's a single card that you have to discard a card, normally you don't just 1-tap this outside of a couple of cards. So that's the whole thing. And then against blue, nobody's really running Final Flash. So it's either Absolute Lightning or you have to have a Vegeta on the field and then Sickle, which is not the hardest to do. But the point is, if you play this guy and just keep him inactive, if you just have other threats alongside of him, he actually is going to get some mileage. He's not as erasable as most people think, especially if he's not the biggest target on the field. So just know that. Then we also have Destructive Strength. This card's not going anywhere. It's still your premier turn 2 or 3 card, depending if you're going second or first. Just gaining energy, not going anywhere. Vegeta, same thing. You'll pick up that Destructive Strength off of the out of the drop and then play it as your energy. This is still the ideal curve. Destructive Strength into Vegeta. That is still the ideal curve. Nothing has changed. And if you can play that Son Goku right afterwards for that last one, you could still play Turles, but I think the deck is getting a little packed. And Turles was one of my cards that I personally cut, and that is the hint you'll get from my list. And if you want to see the full thing, you'll go to Patreon. Yeah, that's just how it is. But that is that. Now, this MOA, right? I put this here. I guess I said if you want to see more, but no, I'm giving you guys 2 hints. I currently, in my Broly list, play 4 MOA. Why? Because I think that in this list, you need Destructive Strength. You have to go off. You have to use Destructive Strength on curve to feel really great. But also, even after that, you need to find your Senzu Bean. If you're facing Taku after Taku after Taku, Senzu Bean at least 1 to 2 times in the game is going to be your savior. And if that's the case, I need a top 5 searcher that searches for extras. This is essentially what we are going for. So yes, MOA is in here. I play 4 of them, and that is the last insight you're going to have to my list, unless you're on the Patreon side. So there we go. But yeah, MOA is just an excellent card, and I do think that he's a mandatory in green right now. Now, of course, another old card, you got Gigantic Meteor, and Gigantic Meteor is just absolutely just still OD. It's great, and it even has an increased rarity. That's not a reason to play it, but like, my gosh, this card is still a massive player in green, and he looks better than before. And then you've got Big Bang Attack. This one is kind of like, I guess, a tech choice. My main thing is you always want to have it because you were able to remove your opponent's 5 cost. Now, it's still good removal, but you need to have 5 on the board when you use him, and I think that sometimes that can hold him back. That means that, like, if you use him outside of having 5 that's whew, and I don't think you max out. You could max out. I mean, I do. This is weird. This card hinges on another card being on the board to make him feel not like a minus, and I think that that can always be rough because that card is not guaranteed to stay, and that card is a high-profile target, being 5Q. So, yeah. With that being said, let us move into the closing and wrap this bad boy up. So, in this sense, I think that green just kind of feels like it's so strong, but it's not necessarily its format. It's like how blue felt in set 1. You knew blue had legs, you knew blue had some good plays, but you also knew that blue had nothing to do against Broly but look at it until they lost the game. This is the kind of how green feels in relation to red. Green has a lot of power locked behind that 8 mana, or that 8 energy turn, but at the same time, you're really sitting here looking at red absolutely go crazy stupid for the first turn 3, 4, and maybe even 5, and then you're on death's door. Like you're playing, you're getting to 8, and unless your 8 is a cell, which is gonna set you back, it'll blow up 2 things and then set you back on your energy while gaining you a life. But I mean, you're going from 2 to 3 at that point, maybe even from 1 to 2, and then you're just trying not to die the next turn. Yeah, red is a house. So this one I tried to be as defensive as possible. If you're on my Patreon or you join up after seeing this video, you'll see how my deck is constructed to just literally try to weather the storm, because red is just a ferocious beast, and the other colors have things they can do in the first couple of turns. Tapping things down to attack on them, locking things down, and those are in yellow. You can bounce things to the bottom of the deck, bounce them back to the hand. You have so many things in other colors. Red versus red, you this tit for tat, this minus thing. But green just doesn't have any of that, and that's what makes it the rough matchup for red. Like that's why when you get paired against red, you have to really lock in and try to survive. Your battle isn't to beat them down. Your battle is to survive to the point where you can actually fight back. So yeah, I think that green is a lot of power, but I think that green is not well positioned at this very moment. Things could change, but hey, we shall see. So like I said, I'm doing a lot of content going into North Carolina. I will be going to North Carolina, so we'll be cranking out that content, and then hopefully coming back with some really crazy content afterwards. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I love making these things. It's just great. Thank you guys for all the support. I will see you guys in the next video, next post, next social media thing. But I think the least I can do, the absolute least I can do, is go over and talk about the people that support the channel the most. I still have to work out the new graphics, so I apologize on that. But I do want to give a vocal shout out, as always promised, to the Realm of Xers, which are the highest ones. And really, that is going to be the that's going to be the Adnans, the APX Dofies, the Big Daddy Flapjacks, the Burars, the Professor Spez, the Spezes, the Bryces, the Kevin Eyes, the Mario V's, the Mr. Top Decks. Thank you guys for being this Patreon and this channel's highest subscribers. Thank you for being on the highest tier. I appreciate it all the time. You guys drive me to make even more content for this game. So thank you guys. I will see you next time, and later.